WDOAM, its staff, management, or advertisers, but are the views and opinions of the participants of the broadcast.
What's your phone? All right, we'll be ready.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
You're on. Good afternoon, and welcome once again to Ask Elaine. This is your voice, Commissioner Elaine Lucas, welcoming you to the program. It's a rainy day outside, but thank goodness it's not too cold. We can navigate. Y'all just be real careful out there because my guest and I are going to be on the road, and the apostle and the bishop are going to be on the road. And so we all want to get home safe and sound. But welcome. We have a wonderful show for you. We appreciate you tuning in. We appreciate the response that we got last week from last week's show, where we paid tribute to the late mother, Sarah Hunt, who passed away. And on last evening at our commission meeting, we again paid tribute to her. We certainly miss her. She will be missed by this community. You just don't know what you have until you lose it. And we have lost a real warrior. But we appreciate everyone who paid your respects. And we just happen to have a copy of the program from her service. It was a beautiful service at her church, New Fellowship Missionary Baptist Church, where Reverend J.L. Bumpus and First Lady Renee Bumpus, our special co-host from last week, they're the faith leaders. And so we just want you to know that there was a wonderful memorial service for Mrs. Hunt, and we just will truly always remember her. After greeting you, want to thank our sponsors as always. Middle Georgia Informer, State Senator David E. Lucas, former Mayor C. Jack Ellis, Sheriff David Davis, EL High School Academy. All of those are sponsors, and we want to thank all of them for their continued support. We want to thank our two super volunteers, Ms. Joyce Gray Humphrey, who is at EL High School today, helping us with making sure that we provide opportunities for students to get their high school diploma. We got several new students in the last few days, and we're looking forward to getting them started on their way toward earning their high school diploma. We'd also like to thank Miss Mary Jane Glover, who is a real good sponsor and a volunteer at EL High School Academy. And Mrs. Hunt, many of you will remember Mrs. Hunt was a member of our Distinguished Educators Board of Directors, and she served very capably, recruited students for the school, worked with those students, helped us with graduation, all of those things. And so we certainly will miss her. Her works will truly speak for her. And so that's our tribute to Mrs. Hunt today. I know you can tell that we're going to miss her, and I know you will too. Our special in-studio guest today, our co-host, is Mr. Don Druitt. He's a wonderful person, a very interesting person. He's had so many life experiences that he's going to be sharing with us today. And so before we get started with introducing him and letting him tell you about some of the interesting things that he does, we want to express congratulations to our new district attorney, Miss Anita Reynolds Howard, who was sworn in on Saturday at the Tillman Museum. It's a beautiful ceremony. Judge, make a night. Judge M. Yvette Miller, who's on the court of appeals, swore in our district attorney. Anita Reynolds Howard is the first black to serve in that position and the first female district attorney serving in that position. So we salute her. And Mr. Druid, you'll be unhappy to know that her enemies are after her already. They started after her before she was sworn in. So that's just about right. That's about the way that it goes. Trump does that same kind of thing too. He's doing that same kind of thing to Biden. You know, just poisoning the water, coming up with all kinds of lies and innuendo and all kinds of things. But they're not going to work. They're not going to work. Just like Trump stuff is not going to work. DA David Cook's stuff is not going to work. It's going to fall back on him. We predict that. We also, Mr. Druid, want to congratulate Desmond Brown, who was sworn in on Friday to become a member for District 2 of the Macon Water Authority. He's a very fine young man, ran a fantastic campaign, grassroots, down to earth. He and his family were there, and a lot of well-wishers. And it's Krista Rump, who was one of our special co-hosts earlier this year, was in charge of all of the beautiful decorations and the whole setup for the banquet that was held afterwards. And so that was just wonderful. One last person that we want to congratulate is Reverend J.L. Bumpus, who was recently called to be the pastor of New Fellowship Baptist Church. And we want to salute First Lady Renee Bumpus, who is right there with him. On yesterday, they held a COVID test drive there at the church, and they were on the scene. Senator Lucas set that up for them in cooperation with Mercer University. And so what I understand was a very successful drive to get testing done. So look, watch out for other testing sites, free testing. I plan to get tested about every 2 or 3 weeks since I have had COVID and it was no fun. So I plan to do that. But I think testing is the way that you avoid your symptoms getting worse and worse and this thing killing you, and then you limit your chances of spreading it to other people. You can instantly quarantine and possibly save someone else's life. So I take it very seriously. It is no joke.
Absolutely.
The senator. So we're going to introduce to you Mr. Don Druid. I'm going to let him tell you a little bit about himself, his background. One thing I want to tell you, though, about him is he's a man of just many, many traits, and he can do so many things. He's involved in so many things, but I want to congratulate him and introduce him as the newly elected president of our local Democratic Party. And so welcome aboard. Thank you so much for undertaking that and for being the leadership that we need to move forward. So, Ms. Drew, introduce yourself.
Well, thank you for inviting me. First, I'd say no weapon formed against you shall prosper.
Right.
Well, I circled back to Georgia after 24 years in the military. My wife and I started out in Georgia back in the 70s. She had just graduated from the University of Buffalo, and I took a job with Dumas Air Force Base as the first African American ever hired as a GS employee from Dumas Air Force Base. And we traveled around the world for the next 24 years, living in Germany and a lot of different places. But when I retired, I was hired as an emergency manager in Virginia, Newport News and Hampton for about 7 years. When I left there, we went to Florida. I was the director of emergency management for both Fort Lauderdale and Miami Beach for 5 years. And then we went to the Cayman Islands, and I stood up the Emergency Operations Center in the Cayman for a couple of years. And then we arrived back in Georgia in Macon in 2010 as the emergency manager for Macon, city of Macon at the time, in Pitt County. And then after consolidation, and we did some successful things in rebuilding the emergency operations for the county, I retired. And since then, I've been doing a lot of artwork for the last 25 years, carving mahogany carvings. I'm on the equalization board here, reviewing tax matters for people when they turn in their grievances against their taxes for their houses or property. And worked with the Tillman Museum doing art shows, the Bibb County School District as the director for the National Arts Program art show for about 3 years. So that's been kind of it.
You've been busy.
And the entire time, and Senator Lucas, your husband, and also Commissioner Lucas both know that I've been an active member with the Democratic Party for the last 10 years.
Okay.
So just recently, we had our election, and I'm honored to be the chair for the next 2 years.
Yes.
So we look forward to a lot of great things, including our Senate candidates are up for election.
Yes.
Turning Georgia blue.
Yes. Let's talk about that a little bit. Our candidates, John Ossoff, is opposing David Perdue. And then we have Reverend Raphael Warnock, who is opposing Kelly Loeffler. And then there is a third race for the Public Service Commission, Daniel Blackman, who is opposing Bubba McDonald for the Public Service Commission. So actually, when you go and you are looking for just 2 races, be sure to look for that third one, because that one is very, very important too. Public Service Commission is the one who handles utility rates and broadband, computers, internet access, all of those kinds of things. So we want to make sure that we get out and vote. The turnout in Macon Bibb, we're in the third day of early voting. And the turnout, have you got the numbers on the turnout?
I don't know the exact numbers, but what I have heard is that the mail-in votes have mirrored what we had for the presidential, and our early voting for Tuesday and Monday has mirrored what they've had for the presidential. So we're coming out.
We really are. We really are. Now, today's a rainy day, so it'll be interesting to see if there's a drop. Usually with the inclement weather, there's usually a drop, but I don't expect it to drop off that much because, people can get inside of the buildings. There are 3 satellite locations. There are 3 locations for voting. You want to tell everybody about those?
Well, one of them is at a place that I think is named after a commissioner, Lucas.
Well,
and of course our headquarters. And the third location is
the Theranossery. What used to be North Macon Park on the north side. But those sites are really being used on Monday. I think there were about 2,500 people, 2,500 people who voted early. And then yesterday, I think there were more than that. So we have around 5,000 folks who voted early. So you're right. That really, that looks really, really good. And that turnout is going to make the difference. So if you still have your absentee ballot, Or if you have not requested your absentee ballot, you need to go ahead and request that absentee ballot. You still have time to request it and get your ballot mailed to your house. Vote at home on those 3 races. Put it back in the white envelope, seal it up, then put it in the yellow envelope, seal that up, sign it, either put a stamp on it, or there are 2 drop boxes. One in front of the main office of the Board of Elections on Pinona Avenue,
and one at the courthouse.
And one at the courthouse. So, really, the Board of Elections is to be commended for the work that they've done in expanding and having 3 early voting sites and having drop boxes. When people go to vote, they have protective things, the mask and hand sanitizer and all of that available for voters. Of course, most people need to go with a mask on, and most folks carry a little bitty hand sanitizer with them anyway. But that will be provided there at the polls. They're everywhere because you just can't take a chance now. Your thoughts on how the elections are going to turn out?
Well, that number 3 is a beautiful number. They say we 3 can agree in peace, love, and unity. It's important to go to the down ticket voting. When you go to those 3 and you check them off, they're all 3 Democrats. But my thoughts are right now is that we need to go out and vote. We need to turn not only Georgia blue, but the Senate.
That's very important. That's right.
We are coming out in large numbers. The Democrats are sticking to their ground game. And we anticipate in our hopes and our prayers is that the answer to the question will be resolved.
Yeah.
And that we will have the Senate and, of course, the presidency.
Yes. So the reason that these Senate seats are so very important, the reason is that in order for Joe Biden to be able to get his program through, you cannot depend on the Republicans. You've got to have a majority of the Democrats who will stick together and vote to push through health relief, to push through possibly another stimulus. And I had some information that the Congress is about to reach a consensus on a lot of things, on the additional monies for COVID. And they're also talking about a stimulus check, another stimulus check. And they're saying it won't be $1,200 this time. It'll probably be $600 or $700, but it'll be $600 for each adult and $600 for each child is the latest information that I got. But if President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris are to be able to get through the legislation that's going to help people, that's going to undo the terrible stuff that Trump was able to put in place, he's going to have a Senate that will vote in favor of his legislation. And then all of his cabinet members, all the people that he's nominating to work with him, he's got to have a sympathetic Senate that will not block all of those as the Republicans did with President Obama. They told President Obama, we're not going to let any of your stuff through. And he nominated a very, very dignified, respectful, learned man, Derek Garland, for Supreme Court.
Absolutely.
They held it up. The Republicans held it up. And so he was not able to get his pick through. So we need to stop that. We've got a call. Let's see. Good afternoon, ask Elaine. Good afternoon, ask Elaine.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I just want to allow. Now, is she talking to me or somebody else?
Go ahead.
Hello?
Hello.
Good afternoon, Elaine. Yes, can you hear me? Yes, we can. Okay. I just want to allow Commissioner.
Yes.
I'm getting a feedback. This
Yeah.
is Mable Randall.
Yes, Reverend
And
Randall. How are you?
listen, I'm fine. I just want to offer up my 30 minutes on Tuesdays for anyone who would like to come in to talk about the election.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, we certainly can get somebody to do that. That would be wonderful.
I would like to do it until the election.
All right. And I know exactly who to get. We'll ask Kimberly Carter, who has all of the information and everything. She would love to do it. So I will communicate with you. That is so unselfish of you. Thank you so much.
Well, listen, I have a good resource to follow. I mean, I just want to do what's right, and you've always been for the public, the voice for the public. So that's why I'm just being so supportive of you and your husband and what you all are doing.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so very much. And we enjoy listening to your program, your words of inspiration, your interesting topics. And so we will continue to do that. But I certainly will ask Kimberly to do your show on Tuesday all the way through to the election.
The election, right.
All right. Isn't that nice of her?
Absolutely. Wonderful.
Okay, then that's all I wanted.
All right. Thank you so much. All right. Bye.
So, Commissioner Lucas, I wanted to mention a couple of things about the Senate election.
Mm-hmm.
Senator Perdue and Rozier are not supporting stimulus for families that are going to be put out of their houses on 31 December. Unemployment is running out.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to that, health care. They never supported the health care program for Georgia.
Right.
And here, people with COVID, it's going to be considered a pre-existing condition.
It is.
Why would anyone want to vote for someone who's going to deny them health care?
Right.
When we know millions of Americans are going to have COVID before it's all over with.
Right. Right. Our numbers in Macon-Bibb County are terrible. I noticed, and I just read somewhere that the big schools were going to, for Monday, Tuesday, schools were supposed to be in session on site Monday and Tuesday, right before the Christmas break.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand that they're going to go virtual for those 2 days because of the numbers of cases of COVID. I always felt like it was a mistake to send children back into that situation, even though they say that children, the disease doesn't spread easily among children. I mean, they're human beings. And so I just had a concern, and many parents did as well. And I understand that parents, it's difficult when they're working and, having to find somebody to supervise the kids and help them with the work and all of that. I know that's difficult. But if our government had taken this thing seriously from the beginning, we would have had a system in place where people who needed to be off and seeing about their children could do that, but they would receive the unemployment. That's what this new plan, this funding bill is all about, to provide that kind of thing. And I am just so happy too to see that there will be stimulus checks for families because Christmas is coming up and different needs. So many people are so far behind now until this little bit is really, it's just going to be a little bit to help them a little to get over this little hump here. But it's really, for a lot of families, they're already really so far gone until these stimulus checks really should be larger. They should at least be equal to the 1,200 that was sent to people before. But I'm not on the Senate negotiation team. But if I had my druthers,
But you're our voice.
I'm a voice, and I'm going to say it should be 1,200. And even with that, most people, $1,200 might pay rent and one other thing, maybe.
They're saying either a car payment or children's Christmas.
Yeah.
That's just a hard thing to do.
But when you've got millionaires, Kelly Loeffler, that's running against Reverend Raphael Warnock. Kelly Loeffler, she says, I grew up on a farm. But that girl, when she got grown, she made money and she married. She and her husband, I think, are worth $800 million. She's the richest senator there in the Senate. And
only appointed. Never elected.
Never elected. She was appointed, and that's a good point. And then David Perdue is a crook. David Perdue made this money cheating veterans out of with those payday loans and stuff. And then he went in and took advantage of some businesses and made money by helping to prop them up, and he reaped the benefits. So they're both crooks. You got two crooks, Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue. And David Perdue was so ashamed that he couldn't answer the questions. He didn't even appear at the last debate with John Ossoff. Didn't even appear. I don't blame him.
Yeah.
I don't blame him. Okay, let's get back to you and let's talk a little bit more about the carvings that you do.
In 1994 or 5, I was spending my last year in the military, and I needed a little project. So my dad wanted a carving of an Indian head chief, and I went out to a hardware store and got a little round tabletop, oak, and some carving tools, and had my son sketching a Indian chief, and I started carving. And since that day, I've had about every couple of months, I would work on another carving, and it just kept going and going and going. I eventually won a first place prize in Virginia at a show, and the same thing in Miami Beach when I worked there. And then I was able to do a show here at the Tillman Museum, which was a lot of fun. So right now I'm at about 51 carvings.
I was going to ask you how many carvings you've done so far.
Well, I was born in 1953, and I said maybe I'll just do 2 more. That'll be 53, and I'll stop. I don't know.
Well, it looks to me like it's one of those things that starts out as a hobby, but you just take it on, it becomes a part of you.
And a lot of them are musical things, people playing instruments, violins, saxophones, guitars, bass. And I always thought music was always an inspiration. And sort of art is sort of a foundation to life. If you don't have art in your life, you might be missing some things. So, and it transcends everything, all kinds of races. And that's why the music and the art industry is so important.
Right. Do you have a list of the others who were elected to serve the Democratic Party, local Democratic Party? If you do, if you would share those.
Absolutely.
With us. It's good to see some new folks who are involved with the local Democratic Party. If you are not a member of the Democratic Party, you ought to join.
So for the next 2 years, our elected officials will be, of course, myself as the chair, and Sunita Davis as the executive vice chair. Austin Rayford is the vice chair of membership. Kylie Brown, the secretary, who's actually a student at Mercer, is bringing in a lot of Mercer students into the membership of the Democratic Party. Leona Hill is the assistant secretary. Harold Thomas is our new treasurer. Peter Taylor, who was our treasurer, is now the assistant treasurer. Marshall Talley, field director. Attorney Amber Jones is our communications director. Attorney Roy Miller is our general counsel. And Bernard Young is our parliamentarian. And Renee Baucus, who was a star on your program last week, is our political director.
Well, that's great. That is great. And then, of course, there are other members of the supporting cast. And I have to remind you, too, that when we were talking about Sarah Hunt being involved with a lot of stuff, she was involved with the Democratic Party. As a matter of fact, she was on the executive board, and she's a former chair of the party. So she served. While she was here, she served. And whenever you needed someone to be an advocate, she was one who was responsible for going to the water board and making sure that you received a phone call before your water was turned off. If you were in danger of your water being turned off, then she insisted that they set up a system to inform you, to call you. Sometimes you forget. And she felt like people needed a reminder. And who can do without water? So anyway, that's one of the things that Sarah Hunt did. When we on the commission changed the garbage fee to yearly, Sarah came and did a petition and convinced the commission that we needed to go back to the monthly or quarterly billing. Yeah. So Sarah was in there. Sarah was a member of the of NAN. As a matter of fact, she was president of NAN for a long, long time, the local president of National Action Network. Reverend Al Sharpton sent a taped tribute to her for her memorial service on Sunday as well. And had representatives from National Action Network here for her service. Sarah, as I said before, was on our board of Yale High School Academy and assisted us and supported students. So she was just involved in a lot of stuff, including the Democratic Party.
She's a force to be reckoned with. She was on one of our last
short lady, but she was a force.
She was on one of our last meetings on Zoom with us, so she was right up to the last minute.
She was in the bed too at that time, from her sick room, from her bedroom, and I kept commenting about her being on her bed and her beautiful spread and her bed linen that she had, and it's just really nice to see her. But Sarah served until she left us. She served,
full spirit,
served and got some things done. So now I said in my remarks at her service, there are people who say they love you, but you gotta show some signs sometimes. If you love somebody, that's great, but you gotta show them sometimes. And so if you care about Sarah, you worked with Sarah, you believed in what Sarah believed in, you need to get involved. And one of the things is to go vote. That's the very first thing. Sarah would say, go vote and vote for all three of the Democrats. So what are some of the goals that you've got?
You mentioned something real quick about Sarah. You need water. You don't need as much food, but you got to have water or you can't survive.
That's right.
So what I want to mention about the party is that each of the 9 districts has 3 post-seat holders. Mm-hmm. So you're able to go to them and find out so they can refer back to the commissioners on what the party's platforms are. But we've adopted the same platform that our national and our state party has for a platform. Mm-hmm. And it's several things: economic security, education, which I think Commissioner Lucas is very apt about knowing about the educational system with her EL High School. Healthcare is another one of the platform. National resources, public safety, national security, justice, and finally, integrity in government, which I think we are kind of dealing with right now.
Yes. So all of those are worthy goals. All of those are things that the local Democratic Party will be working in. I'm just so glad to know that there's recruitment of new members, because for the longest time we've had a handful of people trying to carry out the support of candidates and issues and all of this. And so I think it's great to have membership that can really do some things, do some rallies, bring candidates in, have forums, have fundraising events so that when it's time to support candidates or issues, you're not just standing there talking, you got some money to put out there. I noticed the Democratic Party had some large signs up this time too that reminded people of their roots as far as political is concerned.
Absolutely. I'd first like to say that Dr. Anissa Jones, our outgoing chair, did a wonderful job putting our party on the map this year.
Yeah.
And she actually has, we opened up an office at 1343 Georgia Avenue, the Triangle Center for our headquarters. So she did a wonderful job supporting us and putting the things in place that makes it a lot easier to operate. This year, you mentioned memberships. Our goal is 120 new members. That's 10 a month for the next 12 months. So we're looking forward to having new faces and new ideas, because I think out of the next 2 years, there's going to be something pretty special happening in Georgia that we are going to be pushing forward.
Yeah. We get to start talking about governor again.
Right. We're just waiting until after the inauguration to hear some maybe special event that's going to occur.
Oh, my. So we have to salute to people like Stacey Abrams and all of those others in the state of Georgia who have worked so hard on getting folks registered to vote and mobilizing voters. And it's been really pleasing to me that we haven't just had to go out and work, that there have been resources. There's been fees to pay to people, stipends to hire people to go out. I believe that there's some jobs, part-time jobs that are available now through NAACP and other organizations for canvassing. Some pay $15 an hour, some pay $20 an hour. And so that's pretty good for someone who just needs to, do something very quickly and get their extra money, maybe for Christmas or whatever, and then support the Democratic candidates too. So if you're interested in any of these, if you will contact me at Elo High School or contact the president here, Mr. Druitt, we will be glad to refer you to the folks who are hiring. So, okay, so we talked about that. Now, there's one thing, you're growing your hair out. Usually his hair is shorter, and he doesn't have the beard and the mustache as long as it is. Tell us what you're involved in as far as why you're growing your hair out and the beard and mustache.
I've always been interested in the arts. My mother was a pretty good artist, and I remember as a child she was showing us some of her work. She was drawing Joe Louis and those folks back in the day. So recently I decided to perform. I'm writing, directing, and performing as Frederick Douglass at the Douglass Theater in October of this next coming year. So it's going to be in 3 parts. The first part is going to talk about the African Americans who actually joined the military when slavery was being abolished to fight for the Union. And then the second scene will be Frederick Douglass's life as a slave, as a free person, as an abolitionist. And then the third scene is something that a lot of people know about, and that's Frederick Douglass's 4th of July speech, where he really laid it on about what's going on in America and African Americans. And back then, Negroes, they called us.
Oh, that just really sounds wonderful. You are just so multi-talented. All of the things that the military and the carvings that you do, then now the theater, that is just something. We're we're really excited about that now.
There's one other
Tell us
big
about
thing
this.
that I've really been working on. I copyrighted a play, a musical about Marvin Gaye,
Mhm.
and using his album as the format for all of the scenes. And I'm just waiting for COVID to go somewhere so I can go up to Tyler Perry Studios and sit on his parking lot and say, Mr. Perry, here's a musical you want to produce. And perhaps one day we'll have that out there on the streets. Looking forward to that.
Oh, that you really are into some things. That's just so exciting. For those of you who have just tuned in, you've tuned in to Ask Elaine. This is your voice, Commissioner Elaine Lucas, welcoming you to the program. My special in-studio guest is multi-talented Mr. Don Druitt, who was just elected the new president of the local chapter of the Democratic Party. And so for the next 2 years, he's going to be leading the party. We're very proud of his work. He's also a former emergency management director for Macon Bibb. Tell us a little bit about your work as emergency management director. What does that involve?
It has to do with educating the community about the measures that they can take to be safe for any type of environment, whether it be a terrorist threat or a tornado or a hurricane, or as Megan's experienced, flooding, and to have those safety kits available in your household. So when those things happen, you're ready and able to help. And one of the key things is if you're able to sustain your own family, then you can help someone else. Because it's always about reaching out.
I know that you can give us some information on this. What we've talked over the years about people putting together a safety kit for their homes, and we said that people need to get maybe a plastic container,
Right.
a tote, and that there were certain things that they need to put in there. What would you tell families that they need to have?
Well, you always need, excuse me, you always need some sort of food supply, and we're talking about things that you can store for a while, a period of time without replacing it. And flashlights and batteries and your first aid kit, have a supply of water somewhere. So we're doing a lot of plastic bottled water, and you can rotate that out every number of months or years. Uh, Maybe another piece of clothing that you might sweatsuits or something that you can readily put on if you do have to go to a shelter. And one of the things is your medical supplies, those medicines, and you need to have a list because what people should know is that during disasters, they can have their prescriptions filled at those different pharmacies in advance or when they need to resupply because they have that information. So that's important. And a contact list for all your family members.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of times during hurricanes, we tell people sometimes it's going to be hard for them to call in because our phone banks are overwhelmed. But you can call them and say, we're all right. So they'll know in advance. So those are the kind of things that you need to do to keep your family safe.
Okay, what is all of this you hear about weather radio?
We adopted that years ago when I lived in Florida because of the hurricanes, and it really tells you about when a signal comes up that there's a hurricane or a tornado approaching. It alerts you even when you're asleep. It'll go off and send out a signal, and that means you can run to your safe room or get under the bed or wherever that safe room is for your home where you're living. So that weather radio is important, and it's key to your area. So it's not just giving you an alert from another state or another county, but it does you some good if you have that adjusted. A lot of people now have that information on their cell phones.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And Macon Bibb has an app that people can have on their phone that gives them warnings when there's anything going on. And I'm sure you were responsible for getting all of that kind of thing started when you were there.
We did. We carried it on from Johnny Wingers, who was the director for many years. When Colonel Wingers retired, I became the director. And people probably remember the sirens that go off once a month with the test. I think they have about 57 of them now. And the staff down there is doing a wonderful job at continually notifying people. And they're also involved with COVID, making sure PPE is distributed and keeping you commissioned on their weekly and monthly updates on what's going on around the world.
Right. That's right. That's right. Okay. You are listening to Ask Elaine, a special guest, Mr. Don Druitt, and I know that you've enjoyed hearing all of the varied experiences he has had. He is just multi-talented. He just does so many things, and I know you want to put that on your calendar. We're going to add that Frederick Douglass performance on the calendar of events for the Martin Luther King Commission as well, Mr. Druitt, because we want that to be something that we promote and that we encourage as many people as possible to attend. And any event that's in keeping with the life and works of Dr. King, we include it on our calendar of events. So that is going to be
October 2nd.
October 2nd. So we will certainly include that on there. Our time goes by so fast, but if you want to call in, our call-in number is 478-250-1444. Again, 478-250-1444. We want to invite you to do that. And once again, we want to congratulate our district attorney, Anita Reynolds Howard, who was sworn in. And before she could be sworn in, the enemies were surrounding her and talking about that the folks who contributed to her campaign were criminals and all this sort of stuff. Well, you know, when you lose the race, you lose the race. And very much like Trump, we find that David Cook is raising all kinds of dust, trying to make it seem like Anita Rose Howard is doing something wrong. This lady won the race fair and square, just like Biden won the presidency fair and square. And so what you do is you go ahead and pack up your little boxes and you just go on home. Or you go and try and find you something else to do. But Trump and David Cook are both trying to impugn the integrity of these fine folks, even before they get started serving. I'm sure Anita Reynolds Howard is disturbed by these insinuations, this innuendo. And once you put something negative out there, people tend to believe it and they don't ever see the follow-up story. They don't ever see that the folks who contributed to Anita Reynolds Howard's campaign or the same folks who contributed to David Cook's campaign some years ago. And those folks had no problem with it at all. So, you know, you need to tell the whole story. And before you form your opinion, be sure you get all sides of stuff. Because a lot of times we take that first little notice we get and we run with that and we don't ever go back to get the truth. And it just is so unfair to people. We want to congratulate Anita, though. It was a beautiful ceremony on Saturday. It was wonderful outside in the front of the Tillman Museum. Just a beautiful setting.
What about those children?
All of the children from M.A. Evans performed I Have a Dream. It is this whole swearing-in ceremony is on Facebook. If you will go to Anita Reynolds Howard's Facebook, you will see the entire ceremony. And not only that, but Miss Aisha, what was her name? The young lady who was it Evans or that young lady that performed was simply wonderful. She,
Beautiful singer.
yeah, yeah, wonderful, wonderful singer. I know I've got it. Um, Aisha Ware was the young lady who sang the national anthem. And then she also performed at Sarah Hunt's service the next day. But just wonderful. And then Mr. Desmond, who Desmond Brown, who was sworn into the Water Authority, District 2. Uh, just a wonderful event. And I am just so excited. Those were some of the first events that I've been able to go to and feel, comfortable with my mask, of course. And we were all socially distanced. So all that was great. So people can't hug and can't, stay around each other very much. But we're getting used to that. But it's just very, very nice seeing so many people from a whole lot of places. Keep in mind that Anita Reynolds Howard's district covers Bibb County, it's Crawford, and Peach. Those three counties. And there were representatives, the mayor of Fort Valley, Mayor Williams was there. And it's always good to see her, but it was just wonderful, just wonderful event. And I was so happy to be a part of it. Um, Mr. Druid, uh, tell us one more time about your election as the president of the local chapter of the Democratic Party, and tell us what your goals are as far as tell us about why we should vote in these elections that are going on now.
I'd be glad to do that, only if you allow me to offer a quote from Frederick
Oh,
Douglass,
yes.
because so often we don't give enough accolades to Commissioner Lucas and Yale High School. It's so important for our children to finish their high school diplomas. Frederick Douglass said, "It's easier to mend the minds of children than to mend the broken bones of men." But he didn't say we shouldn't try to mend
Yeah.
those broken bones. Our Democratic Party's platform is going to try to involve the community as much as possible on knowing what your rights are and what things that we need to do to provide this community a better place for us to live, work, and play. So often we see the blights in the community and we wonder why those things aren't being taken care of. But I assure you that this year, with our new commission, with Commissioner Lucas leading the way, that we'll be taking care of a lot of the things in the county to give people more hope, more opportunity, so they can not only educate their families, but to feed their families, which is so important. Our children from birth to third grade learn how to read. After that, they read to learn.
Yeah.
And if our children are not in school, they're not going to have that great opportunity. So the Democratic Party is part of the educational process to let people know what their rights are. And one of the most important things that we fought for from slavery through today is that right to vote. Dr. King said, the last piece of the puzzle is the art of politics.
Mhm.
We're understanding it more and more every day, and we're here to provide information to the people so they'll do the right thing.
Very, very good. Thank you so very much. We still have time for a few calls. Our call-in number is 478-250-1444. If you have a tribute that you'd like to make, if you have a comment, if you have a season's greeting, if you have anything you want to share about your voting process, whether it was easy or whether you had some difficulty, we would like to hear from you. And if you'd like to pay tribute to Ms. Hunt, or if you'd like to inform us of someone that we need to salute, just please give us a call. Once again, I always like to salute a minister in the community. I want to salute Reverend Richard Robinson of New Pleasant Grove. Missionary Baptist Church. He and his wife were at the swearing-in ceremony for Anita Reynolds Howard. And I recall a number of things that they have done. And one in particular is they have targeted their senior members. And they traveled around a caravan of cars of the members, and they traveled to the homes of the senior members, the most senior members, and took them gifts and greetings and all of that.
Wonderful.
What that just meant so much. You could tell. I watched the videos that were on Facebook, and to see the faces of the senior members. And one member was Mr. Henry, George Henry. They visited him before he passed away. And he was just so thrilled that his pastor and church members came and gave him, I believe it was a basket, fruit and snack basket or something, and greetings. And it meant so much. So, because of your work and the work of your church, New Pleasant Grove also provides rides to vote every election. They always have done that. It's been uh, historic for them that they have provided rides for folks who, especially members, but for anybody who needed a ride. So, because of your work and because of your commitment, and especially because you have not thrown your seniors away, you're still paying tribute to them and looking out for them. We salute Reverend Richard Robinson, First Lady Robinson, and the members of New Pleasant Grove Missionary Baptist Church as our church and pastor and faith leaders of the week. And so, anybody, when you see them, please congratulate them. Before we go, I want to remember 4 people who are leaving the Make a Bid Commission. One of those is Scotty Shepard. Scotty Shepard was a retired sheriff, major was his highest rank, and he served on the Make a Bid Commission for 2 terms. He's been ill recently and hasn't been able to attend, but he served well. And I got to know him and got to really respect his concern for people. We also want to salute Joe Allen, who has served a long, long time on the old county commission and now on this commission. And he's the founder of Kids You Love. We salute him for that, for helping in the community, and we wish him well as he retires from the Make a Bid Commission. We also want to salute Rabbi Larry Schlesinger, who is a good friend of mine and a good friend to this community. He has just done so much. And finally, Bert Bivens, whose family has a history of work in the community. And we just can't say enough. He is a civil rights leader par excellence. And so we want to salute those 4 for their service to the community and thank them. And when you see them, thank them for serving.
And one more. Fire Chief Marvin
Riggins. Marvin Riggins is retiring after 41 years with the Macon Fire Department. And we're going to have him on the show too, as well as the mayor is leaving. He is leaving after 13 years. And so we're going to try and get both of them on and then get our newly elected mayor. I'm sorry we could not catch that call, but thank you so much for tuning in this week to Ask Elaine. I hope you learned something from the information that we shared. We look forward to having you back again next week, and we want to thank you, our co-host, Mr. Druid.
Enjoyed being here.
For being here today and serving as co-host. Thank you so much. Tune in again next Wednesday for another edition of Ask Elaine.
connecting the community through
You know, I told you a couple of years ago, I was so glad you got that music back.
and make it.
Yeah. It's just catchy. It's catchy.
You know, my son did that.
Yeah. I think we ought to protest the show. It needs to be 3 hours long.
I don't know who that is trying to